Right, hello, welcome back. Procurement and Finance Coffee Break. Claire and Richard here. And I got to pick the topic. So, Balanced Scorecard. Do you know, it was all a bit of a fad in the 90s and early 2000s. I should know, I actually went to Harvard to get qualified as a Balanced Scorecard Practitioner.
Wow.
I've even got a book signed by Kaplan and Norton. So the chances are I'm now going to make a total mess of this. But actually, I'm not going to talk about, because there were lots of books. What I want to talk about is why I think it's a good idea and why it's so important to do it. And to be honest, I have seen triangles, I've seen pentagrams, I've seen the traditional 4 perspectives. It doesn't matter if we get the thing right. So look, let me waffle to start with.
Yeah.
What is a balanced scorecard? Balanced scorecard, really simple idea: alignment and objective reporting against that alignment. What does that mean? 4 perspectives, so which are balanced. What does that mean? It means that we're not just thinking about profit or productivity. We're actually thinking about 4 perspectives about a company. We're thinking about financial performance. We're thinking about our customer reaction, how they feel, how they're performing. We're thinking about the processes that make our business tick. And we're thinking about the learning and growth, which improves the knowledge, the skill set of our organization. And the idea is a really simple one. If you come up with a set of objectives and measures, which you actually do then measure and check you're doing it, that have got financial targets that are going to deliver expectations of customer service, that are going to improve your processes and are going to improve the learning and growth of your team, the organization as a whole will be better for it. It will grow in balance. So, balanced scorecard, balance the 4 perspectives on a scorecard, because the idea is we create things that we can measure, and there we go. The other thing, which is the really big benefit, is alignment. And just to bring alignment to life, if even without a balanced scorecard, in your world, if we've got a revenue target for a multinational company, then the way the budgeting process works, this is procurement talking finance now, so this is really basic. Simple math says if you've got an overall revenue target, the sum of your business units should add up to the global company-wide revenue target. So what we're talking about is, if the business is focused, and let's just give 4 simple examples on, in finance, we're talking about revenue and margin. In customer, we're talking about customer satisfaction and positive feedback. In process, we've decided we're going to focus on improving procurement and improving marketing. And in learning and growth, we're going to focus on soft skills, particularly speaking, problem solving, because that's going to help our customer service scores. The board should be setting those in a top level scorecard. And then every business unit should be looking at that scorecard. And a bit like from my military world, which is, whenever you got a set of orders, the first question you asked yourself was, what's my higher commander's intent and what's my part in his plan? And so, as a business unit, you would look at the global scorecard and you would say, okay, well, I have that much of the revenue and the margin. This is what I've got to do to deliver those 2 things on customer service outcomes. My procurement's pretty good, but my marketing is terrible. So my focus is going to be on getting the marketing up to the right level. And, on learning and growth, I've got lots to do. So I'm going to go focus on those soft skills. So when it's done properly, what you've got is a balanced set of performance metrics that together will drive the organization forward. We talked in an earlier coffee break about, maturity model assessments. So you could think about it saying, right, it's going to come up with a roadmap of what I'm going to push up in my performance across different areas of the business. I've got clear targets, but as you go down the organization, whether that's by business unit or by function, we should be looking at what's above us, looking at their scorecard, saying, right, this is what the part that I play in that scorecard. this is how I'm now going to capture it in mine. And, you know, as I said, it was a huge push and a fad 90s, 2000s. You don't actually hear so much of it now, which is a shame, because actually it's a fantastic tool, and there's a lot of resources that you can look at.
So basically a great tool to make sure the business as a whole is singing to the same hymn sheet, and you're looking at not just quantitative factors, which mainly fall under the financial, but also qualitative factors.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly right.
So with that summary in mind, perhaps you could bring to life an example, perhaps on learning and growth, because that's an area that perhaps I feel that I don't understand the most.
And it's what I work in. So there we go. Okay, so let's pick a great example. Let's suppose your business has identified, like I said, that they want to improve soft skills because they've recognized that the ability to communicate, network, and to be, if you like, user-friendly is a really important part of how you work better together. We talked about feedback in an earlier session, so communication internally, but also communication externally, whether that is to customers or, you know, potentially suppliers. So the business has said, we want you to improve these soft skills. Now, okay, let's imagine I'm the CPO. I'm going to look at that scorecard and say, right, what aspects of communication do my team need to focus on in order to contribute to that general company-wide improvement? And of course, what I do is I'd look at it and say, right, I've got some soft skills which are unique to procurement. Well, they're not unique, actually. Problem solving. I would have negotiation. I would have feedback. I would have the ability, actually, listening skills, the ability to go to stakeholders and listen to what they want. So I could look at that general improved soft skills for the purposes of communicating better, and actually decide that in procurement, that meant a focus on 4 specific bits of communication, because they're relevant to my function and they contribute upwards to what the board is trying to achieve. So
okay.
So let me throw the question back to you. As you said, this is not your, you know, this would not be your mastermind chosen subject.
No.
But you know, if you think about, you know, we've talked a lot about budgeting, we've talked, and in previous breaks. So if you thought about think of a multinational company, practically, talk us through how you would, what would be the key metrics at the company level for financial performance, and what would you do? What would you then expect business units to do to align?
So from a finance point of view, I feel like it's fairly easy, because you should be putting together once a year your annual operating plan, and at least quarterly redoing your forecasts of that plan. From a financial perspective, if at a top level you've got an annual operating plan from the company, that will be made up from the top down in terms of objectives, and from the bottom up in terms of what each of the business units expects to be able to achieve. Now, those financial metrics, they'll go to, revenue growth, EBITDA growth, cash generation, working capital management. So it'll go, that all those metrics will be set out in your annual operating plan, because it'll be a full P&L and balance sheet month by month for the whole year. Now, the other elements that you've discussed, the customer perspective, learning and growth, and internal processes, this is where you're looking at things that are both qualitative and quantitative in nature. So you mentioned customer service and perhaps the ability to listen and soft skills. Now, it's likely that you'll probably be looking to get like 360-degree feedback or customer feedback on that, and they're not quantitative. But from a finance perspective, and you can include the customer bit in there. Maybe.
Especially procurement. Key customer. Look after us.
So I was thinking, well, you could also come up with metrics about how you are as an internal customer as well. So not just not just the pure financials, but how easy is it to get invoices paid out of finance? How easy is it to get a purchase order raised or approval? How easy is it to make changes to the delegation of authority if you've got an urgent payment or something like that? So there could be a raft of I feel pure financial metrics, which is basically which should be driven from your AOP, because that's what you're presenting ultimately to the board and stakeholders. Plus these qualitative factors, which I think, as you say, should cascade from what's determined at a top level are the key value drivers for success of the company strategy.
Right. And being a little bit flippant, always good to talk inside your business when you're developing a scorecard. So, for example, from a procurement perspective, I could look at finance and say, yeah, absolutely, you've got to focus on whatever is whether it's margin or EBITDA growth or whatever it is that you've got to do. But you've got to think about your customer, procurement. You've got to think about improving the process by which you do your accounts payable. And you've got to learn about procurement, because that's a bit of a gap in your knowledge. Now, okay, I'm being flippant, but the point is, if that's one of the important things that you've got to do to help you deliver better outcomes for the business, it's correct. So how do we summarize? Really simple. Balanced scorecard, balance, 4 perspectives. It works top down. It's not about writing down every single metric in every single box. And you've just talked about all the things that would be in an annual operating plan, but there's going to be a few of those which, the board decide are the things that have got to be an area of focus. So it could be improving working capital and improving margin. Everything else has got to happen. But the health measures, the big ones for change, are those 2. So it's about focusing on the things that are going to really drive change in an organization. It's about alignment down business units or across functions. It's about making sure that by focusing on money, customers, process, and how you develop your people, you're not just pushing one bit at the expense of the others. And actually, do you know what? If you do it well, and you use it as part of your monthly drumbeat reporting, it can bring real benefits to the organization. And there are a ton of resources out there that you can look at, and we'll share some of them in the blurb under the video on YouTube. But for now, in a balanced way, we'll say goodbye. Until next time. Bye.